true to what you said on paper.
I wish that I could freely dream and be judged from within, haunted by a power that cannot see past my
No, no, we're live. I ain't messing with you all. That's how, just like, you know, you're on the stage and the curtain comes down and you're ready. Like, okay,
what just happened?
What just happened here? See, folks, y'all have to be here for the after hour. You are listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison, in studio with my brother from Dr. Bradley is with us. These guys are hilarious. And Robespierre, a.k.a. Mushmouth, is
I'm flat. I try a little Barry, Barry White.
There we
get
go.
a little baritone in the voice.
Yo, yo, go ahead. There we go. The Barry White.
Put a little baritone.
We're just joking at the
exactly. It was the top of the intermission. Having fun, right? We want to thank our sponsor, Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company. For all your mortgage needs, give branch manager Cora Holbrook a call at area code 781-342-0252. Guarantee Mortgage is located at 75 State Street in downtown Boston, Mass. Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company, guaranteed to exceed your expectations.
Brother, you can hardly get that out.
You guys are too much, folks. Like I said, if you want to be part of this broadcast, I don't know why. Give us a call at 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. Ah, man, great talk. So we want to get into the violence, the increase in violence, not just here but across the country. And in particular, wanted to spend a little time, and I hope he's listening there. You know, his brother Rock. You know, and down in our nation's capital, and the reason why I flagged that city is because they pay taxes but they don't have any real representation. That I didn't know this until recently, that they don't have DAs, the U.S. attorneys, because it's the way it's situated. They're the ones who have to prosecute any cases that go through there.
Yeah, Justice Department. Yeah,
right. The Department of Justice is their district attorney office, and because of that, because of all of the things that have been going on with the January 6th insurrection, that everything is kind of backed up. That is taking priority. So folks are not feel like that the things that need to be taken care of, they're not getting the attention. So I want to play a little clip from the CBS News on the violence.
The Administration Committee is being briefed this morning on increased violence in D.C. by the House Sergeant at Arms and Capitol Police. It comes as some people in the nation's capital are fearing for their safety and are questioning the city's commitment to security after seeing a sharp rise in brazen crimes over the past year.
The Washington Post cites several reports of homicides, random shootings, and carjackings by armed teenagers that have left much of the city on edge. So Daniel Webster joins us now to talk a little bit more about this, to make sense of these rising numbers. He's a distinguished research scholar at Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Violence Solutions. Thanks for joining us. Officials are reporting violent crimes in neighborhoods typically considered safe in D.C. What's driving the surge across the nation's capital?
Well, one thing it's important to acknowledge that we're seeing an increase in youth-involved shootings and gun violence of a variety of forms, not only in Washington, D.C., but in many cities. Even as we're finally starting to see, after a huge spike in gun violence in 2020, we're finally starting to see generally some reductions in shootings. But the exception clearly is youth, and specifically also robberies with guns and carjacking. So these are, I think we're still trying to sort out exactly what is driving this, but certainly we know that there's an increase in the availability of firearms to youth. And many of the systems that, are relevant to youth and to schools and other sorts of things have been disrupted since the pandemic.
So, Daniel, what's interesting, I guess, to me is when I hear that one of the reasons may be increased access to firearms, I think to myself, it always feels like if you're a criminal, you can get your hands on a gun. I mean, that's not that's always been the case in this country because guns and firearms are readily available in this country, right? And so then I sort of think to myself, well, okay, so yes, maybe they can get them a little easier than they could before the pandemic, but now what's driving specifically the demographic, the younger people that are committing these crimes? So what are you seeing? Like, I mean, what is happening? Could it be that district attorneys are prosecuting less? I mean, I'm trying to get an understanding of why we're seeing this spike.
Sure. First of all, I just want to push back a little bit on the general assumption that criminals have always been able to get guns. I've been studying gun violence and policy solutions to it for 30 years, and we clearly see that certain policies do indeed make guns less available for criminal use, and we see less gun violence as a result. In response to what's going on now that may make firearms more available, we have a few troubling trends. Most importantly, I think, is a very rapid increase in the use of privately made firearms. Sometimes they're referred to as ghost guns. Right. These have particularly been used by underage youth who can't legally purchase firearms. They are made and in many ways marketed precisely to an underground market of young people and others who can't legally possess firearms. So that is one troubling trend. We also saw the huge increase in gun purchasing in recent years, as well as in gun carrying by civilians. This makes guns available because people leave them in their motor vehicles and in other places. So we've seen a big increase in thefts of firearms. So there's a variety of mechanisms now going on that make firearms far more available than they used to be. There's also the question of, is the criminal justice response to illegal gun possession and use adequate, or has it been changing? I think, particularly in the District of Columbia, those systems have been strained. Many people will not realize, but District of Columbia is the only place that doesn't have its own elected officials to prosecute crimes. So they rely upon federal prosecutors, and those federal prosecutors have been overrun by the investigations from the January 6th attack on the Capitol. We've also had local problems with the crime lab and processing the firearms that are recovered is part of a crime lab duty. So we've had a variety of problems in the response to illegal gun possession.
You know, your organization is all about finding solutions. I mean, it feels like we will need your organization for a very long time, that sure. You will not be able to sort of pack it up because we found the solutions.
And Congress, and I know you're briefing members of Congress, but
it basically,
I don't think a lot of people have.
So that in a nutshell, that's down in Washington, D.C., and I think a lot of cities are experiencing the same thing. And to put that in perspective, in 2019, Dr. Bradley, folks, there was 104 homicides in Washington, D.C., in the city of Washington, D.C., and it's been increasing. This year, they're already at 166 homicides in Washington, D.C. In Boston here, we're seeing an increase, right? We see a lot more firearms, those ghost guns, also with those what they call a switch, where that's what was used in the shootings on the Caribbean Carnival, where 8 people were shot, and anything over more than 3 people is considered a mass shooting. So we've had several of them here, which is not hadn't been common, becoming very common. Last weekend, unfortunately, we had 5 people shot up in Ames Street, up in the Franklin Field housing development, in which 2 teenagers, one young girl, 15 years, still in critical condition, not looking good for her. So we're seeing that here as well, and this is why I flag this, because we're seeing an increase, and this goes back to our elected officials. I know they can't stop violence, but more can be done than's being done. And so the question is, folks, are you seeing an increase in, because this poll just came out that said Boston is the second safest city in the country. Boston. In certain sections, that people would agree. But if you live in some of these neighborhoods where this is not the thing, where you can't go out on a Sunday night and be out there, enjoying an evening with your family, having a little family get together, and gunshots ring out, that means absolutely nothing to you. So 617-282-0685, 617-282-0685. Like I said, your comments on whether DC should be its own separate city. You know, they're actually run by the federal government because of how it's structured, but they don't really have a voice in what happens in their city. It's the Congress that decides on there, and you know, it's a predominantly city with black folks.
Well, my comment my comment on this is number one, you have to understand it. First of all, let's talk about Boston being the second for safest city. When we talk about statistics or research, my first question to myself: who are you questioning? Where are you conducting your study? You know, and what is the outcome that you want of that study? For you know, who's funding that study? Because oftentimes the funding source guides the outcome. Just has been my experience. My next question is that you have to understand the territory of DC. You know, DC is a district; it's not a state, and there's been a movement to push for statehood for DC, because if they had statehood, a lot of things that you see in other states, representatives, a homegrown, I should say, a home level, you know, political structure to actually address these kind of social issues. All that stuff would be addressed. All right, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to solve it. It just means that you have a voice to deal with it. The people who are paying into the system has a voice to deal with it. Right now, you have to go. They're using the federal government because it's the district,
which is dysfunctional, which is about to shut down.
Although, I love this piece. It's the district that was designed by a brother.
Okay.
Benjamin Banneker is really the individual who actually laid the very cornerstones to DC. Absolutely. He was a self-educated black man. His mother was white, father was black. But that's another conversation.
He laid the cornerstones and we had to carry the stones.
Exactly. I hear you. Exactly. All right. So that's how that works. So I think, you know, the commentator there made a couple of comments, the person that was the interviewee, about, you know, ghost guns and all these other guns. And all, but those issues are represented in other jurisdictions as well. We have ghost guns issues here in Boston. You know, we have a proliferation of gun ownership here in the city of Boston and the surrounding towns. You know, oftentimes it's not the individual who.
But what we don't have, Dr. Bradley, not to cut you out, we don't have a gun store in Boston.
I hear you. I hear you.
So that's why it's like, so we know they're not being brought here.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going. Oftentimes the question becomes where these guns are coming from.
There you go.
You know, they're not coming from Boston. You know what I mean? Because we don't have it. You know what I mean? They're coming from other jurisdictions, other states. There lies the issue. We need to make sure that the ATF has the necessary resources to deal with the movement of guns through the states. And we also need to make sure that our representatives push for a national gun law, to stop that movement.
To that point, yesterday President Biden announced a gun office. You know, and he appointed the vice president as quasi in charge of that, right? And I see it's a good gesture, but it's really, in my opinion, just symbolic. If you don't have a national regulatory on firearms.
Well, actually, not to cut you off, it's symbolic in two ways in my mind. Number one, is only going to be as prevalent as alive as long as his administrations are prevalent.
Right. That's true.
So once he leaves, it's done.
Right.
All right. And number two, you already have the pieces in place. All you have to do is strengthen the ATF. ATF right now, from what my understanding is, and might have changed, so I want to make sure I contain this correctly. They use very few technologies, computer technology, to monitor who are buying firearms and where those firearms are been stored. Usually that is relegated to the states.
Right.
The issue is that we need to have a federal, because if you have a federal movement on this situation, you will be able to deal with the transition of guns from one state to another.
If I'm not mistaken, before we grab this call, is you're expecting the people who are going to shut the government down in less than 10 days?
No, I don't.
Okay. I just want to be clear.
I'm not that naive. I'm not that naive.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Because you said the federal government as if it was something was going to happen.
I'm just saying that's what the need is. Not right. They're going to address it.
Okay. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable.
Yes, good morning, everyone. This is T. Michael from the People's Academy.
Good morning,
T. Michael. How you doing, brother?
Well, I'm in the fight. Right out the gate, every black parent should go out and get life insurance on their kids. That would be a start.
We already have it, but good, on our two. But yeah, I know, and it's cheaper to get when they're young too.
But they still should right now, if they have life insurance on their kids.
Well,
a lot of the shooting.
Hold that. And I'm gonna let you finish in a second because Rhodes Pierre is here and he's going to tell you what's the benefit of why you should have that. Rhodes.
Well, ultimately, we all know what's the two guarantees in life?
Death and taxes.
So it's going to happen anyway. So be prepared for it. And it's the only product that is out there that can mitigate. It's not going to prevent it. It's not going to stop it, but it's going to mitigate the financial blow that comes to your family. Right. And one of the things, again, the reason why you also do it, it's like look at it as life insurance, and you're expecting to live, and it's a way to build intergenerational wealth. And also, when that wealth is being built, there's mechanisms, again, depending on the type of insurance that you get, there are mechanisms that are built in there, so it can help you throughout life in regards to what you're able to do as a financial tool. It's very versatile. But why you should get it is like, one, if you know that you're going to die, the government banks on you dying. And then so literally they actually expect you to die, and most of the time when people die, they don't have their affairs in order. And then having that will, that trust, the healthcare, all those things so when the transition happens, unfortunately a lot of people aren't prepared in our community, especially in our community, and that is when if anything has your name on it, the biggest court system in this country is called probate court. And they come in, and if it has your name on it and you're no longer alive, it now becomes in question. It's no longer, the person's no longer here, so who owns this? And if there's not proper paperwork to set up the transition for the ownership to be transferred legally, because a lot of people, again, come into this country, aka my parents, but also people grow up in this country and they don't know this. And then so when they come in, they automatically, like my parents made the assumption, everything that belongs to me will just go to my children, and not in America, if it's not written in paper, if it's not legally bounding, that philosophy or that idea that you have that everything you own goes to your children, that's not true. And then so like literally the biggest court system in this country is probate court. So if they bank on you not being prepared for your death. If your ducks in.
So T. Michael Gladys, just wanted him to weigh in on that when you were talking about the insurance, because we have someone here who's very versed in that guy.
Thank you. The second thing is the construction industry, the gun violence, the robbery that's up nationwide, but my concern is Boston. There is a candidate for one of the offices in Boston, I wouldn't give their name, and went to one of the construction sites to gather signatures of support to be on the ballot or whatever. And the person could not get enough signatures from a construction site, reason being because most of them were from like New Hampshire and places like that.
So they didn't even live in the state or the area where
they don't vote here, live here, pay taxes here.
Well, the sad part to what you're saying is people who could sign it don't vote. So
but
we get much even from the people who do live here. But I'm sorry. Go ahead. I digress.
Right, but the point I'm making is,
I know the point. Right, it's a valid point, and I'm not cutting you off from that. But it's just sad to say that people are willing to sign up who don't even live here. People who live here could be of use to that person with their valid signatures, even if they don't carry it all the way through.
Right, and of course, I always have to bring up People's Academy. You're talking 15 plus years later, you have folks in our community that holds these offices. When you approach them and said, hey, we're in a multi-billion-dollar industry in construction, work with us so we can get a lot of these individuals, especially the ones that's returning home, that would never go to the military, never go to Wall Street, etc. Work with us so we can make them employable so they can take care of their family, community, economy. It's like dealing with the deer in the headlight. And they're very slivery with every excuse about why or, not supporting. And keep this in mind, and I have to highlight this. The Biden administration is about to release $4 trillion for labor. So think of some of that money coming to Massachusetts. How then is it going to benefit the black and brown folks in Boston? And this is a reason why that wealth gap that we keep not addressing. $250,000 for white a person savings compared to $8. We're in a $1 billion industry in the construction industry. Show me one elected official that's standing there and saying, here is jobs that could uplift and take so many people out of poverty.
Right. But again, we're beating a dead horse here because we talk about this all the time. And there doesn't seem to be a movement from the folks who are impacted by what you're saying. Like you said, how many people are lining up behind you to get this in place, right? Because we see the trade there's a need for it. We see that folks are out there working, but a lot of them are not from this community. It would benefit them financially, right? Not everyone's going to college, but yet we don't see a movement there. T. Michael, stand by for a second. I want to get these comments that Pastor Hobbs has, folks, to what we've been talking about.
So Patrick Wilson's on and said, yay, Rhodes is here. He says, hoping to see him later this morning at the activism event that the city is putting on later this morning downtown. Reverend Billy and the Stop Shopping Choir are performing at 11 a.m. at the Old South Meeting House, and it's free. It's a free event. Carol Sanders says, he said the pandemic conjuring me with regard to your the thing you played a little earlier. We added 100 million guns since 2016, and efforts to reduce gun crime are nearly pointless if this isn't addressed. More comments says, in new sales. Patrick Wilson says there are already more guns than people on the streets. Many have been begging for regulatory reform for years. It didn't happen, and we are way past the tipping point. To me personally, it now makes more sense to teach gun safety to everyone, especially those of marginalized groups. Carol Sanders says federal registration with stiff crimes for non-compliance and stiff fines for not immediately reporting missing weapons would help restrict the black market. Combined with storage law, it would kill that market, but folks hate the idea of a police walkthrough of their home.
Violation of the Fourth Amendment, but go on.
Okay. Set penalty for ghost guns, ownership at 20 to life, death penalty for manufacturing, confiscated guns. Wow, this comments are just flying in. So, confiscated guns should be burned, not reintroduced to the population. Today is day 1237 of my prosecution for asking for compliance for a mass executive order 53/2020. My 2A rights properly were taken over my nonviolent protest on 6/30/21. Yeah.
So, and it's ironic, every week you come in here, Pastor Hobbs, and you have your shirt on, represent trades, not triggers. It's either the green one, the gray one, or, and so here we are, trades, not triggers, and that's the T. Michael, the People's Academy. And 15 years later, like I said, we've been in this seat, Dr. Bradley, right? Probably one of the longest broadcasting duels here at Boston Praise Radio. I said we started in a little small room in there on the AM side.
Yep.
We've been talking about these issues, and yet we're doing our part. We get up Saturday mornings, come here. We're not compensated for this. Trying to educate our folks because we understand we have been the beneficiaries of an education, of a community involvement, a community investment, and we're trying to pay that forward.
Amen.
But I just don't see folks caring enough. They want you to be defeated. The other side is doing everything, and they're not hiding, and they're doing it in plain view. Saying we want people in office who are going to mandate and carry out when I think about what people are accepting in places like Florida, banning books, and one guy who said if he becomes governor, I forget what state it is, that he will burn books at the state house there. that he doesn't see. I mean, who does that? There was a guy.
Sounds like Germany, huh? The 1930s,
Right.
1920s, 1930s.
Imagine
right?
in Germany someone coming up with an attitude like that, or a governor or a mayor in a city saying that they're gonna burn books and ban and Donald Trump saying that he's gonna put a ban on certain people from coming in here, or how you think, and people saying that's what we want.
Yeah, because what happened is, and that's it, again, history shows you this. What was the similarities between what happened in Germany and what's happening today? Fear.
Mm-hmm.
Fear was really the cohesive that held all that stuff, all that nonsense together.
Yeah.
Fear of losing jobs, fear of losing control, fear of losing your authority, your power in the country. Right. So you have that represented in America. Fear of losing white supremacy. Yeah. And so things like January the 6th and all those other, been prosecuted, been impeached twice, been, indicted multiple times. That goes out the window when you're telling me that you're going to support me and address my fear. Right. I don't care about those other things. Right. That's what the issue is.
No, you're right, because I mean, you're seeing even some, with this whole thing and in some ways it's been successful with these governors from places like Texas and Florida, and busing and flying immigrants into states like Massachusetts and New York, and they're seeing it. So, and now you have these other news outlets that just showed migrants coming across the border in record waves, 9,000 in one day. That does, elevate that fear in people that this country is being taken over by those people.
And think about the timing.
Yes.
Think about where we are and what's happening next year. So all of a sudden now, at the tail end of this administration, you start you're promulgating, you're pushing that. Right. Now it's all about fear.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you're being manipulated, not even thinking about it. You're being manipulated to vote in a certain direction because of fear.
Right. And then someone who said they're going to fix it, they didn't fix it the 4 years they were in there. They didn't fix immigration, right? It actually was worse under his administration, under Trump, than it was under
that's not how the government is designed.
But he's selling fear. He's selling fear. T. Michael, any final comments? I know you.
Yes. My final comment is, and I said it before, and I'll say it again. Either way, we're making huge progress with the People's Academy. Yeah. The help is coming from outside. A lot of them don't look like us on this show right now, but it's all good. The main object is to get that school built, to help these individuals.
And where we at? And Pastor Hobbs wants to speak to as well before you hang up. But where are you at with that as far as getting that building erected there at Warren and Townsend?
We're restructuring everything internally. We're rebuilding, but we also have folks that aggressively coming on board. They see the bigger picture. They see the need and the impact it would have. So,
and the irony of what you're saying, T. Michael, and I apologize because is it just because we're going through the same thing at MAMLEO, right? Trying to put up the building there, trying to put up affordable housing for our most vulnerable senior population, right? You think what you're doing, what we're doing would be embraced and the support would be overwhelming. We're running into the same roadblocks, the same obstructions, the same delays that you're going through. And it's sad because the similarities that both these structures will help the community, not harm it. This is not a cannabis. This is not a for-profit. This is to help the community. And they talk about wanting to, and when they're actually, about housing shortage, we're trying to provide that just as you would be in your program. Where's the help?
Well, can I throw something out to relating to that? If the mayor, which has control over linkage money, and if she could divert $18 million to buy a building with the linkage money, it doesn't come out of her pocket, but it's still money she has control of, and put that and buy a building for displaced musicians in Brighton, when some of them don't even reside, pay taxes, vote, or live in Boston. So programs like the People's Academy and institutions like MAMLEO is not getting help. The money is there. Look at all the cranes. Where is all that money? And it's to the mayor's discretion. It's bogus. And every one of these elected officials, shame on you. And I'm going to say it full disclosure, I support Counselor Anderson because to me she has a spine. She have shown me, so I'm on the ground with her because she deserves a chance. But the rest of them, I will be seeing you in front of that podium.
Pastor Hobbs has a comment or question for you.
Yeah, so a few things. One is, so as you talk about wearing the shirt, oftentimes when I wear the shirt, people stop me and say, "Oh, I want trades, not triggers." These are folks who are, engaging in this, and they're excited to see that there's an alternative. So I'll turn around and show them the People's Academy, tell them, so people are wanting alternatives, I guess is really what I'm trying to say. One, and two, with regard to supporting T. Michael Thomas and the People's Academy, I know Frank Baker was a supporter, one of your staunchest supporters, and now that he's not running for re-election and the District 3 seat is down to two people, Joel Richards as well as Fitzpatrick, wondering which of those you feel is going to lend support to you for the People's Academy.
Well, verbally, they all claim that they will support. But once folks get into office, we'll have to see. It's the same thing. But my question now to everyone that's running for office, with T. Michael and the supporters of the People's Academy, give us a reason why we should vote for you. We should support you. That's going to be the question.
Right. Well, the reason is that the folks in your community that need this and that are impacted by this don't vote. That's why they get away with it. They can ignore you because your voters ignore you by not exercising.
Yeah. But we can change that, right? One is, again, by the efforts that we're already doing going inside.
You're making an effort. I'm just saying is that, but it's not making enough of a difference from the folks here on the outside. Even if you got everyone behind the walls registered to vote, how much of an impact would that be citywide? Marginal, right? And I'm not minimizing
but
that.
the fact that Julian here won by one vote, right, at one particular point. And so my point is, it relates to specific issues, right? So the House of Correction sits in D3. Mass and Cass sits in D3. So these candidates that are running specifically for this have an opportunity. One is we're going inside and registering people. They will be inclined to be, as we bring the candidates in, and they be able to give their strategies. What are you going to do?
Right.
To address? Listen, I don't mean to minimize your enthusiasm because I think you're very active and you're doing some incredible work. But Mass and Cass only has one. Representative. So what he's saying
actually has 5 because the at-large councils represent them well. But you're right. But primarily, yes.
Primarily, where I'm going with this is that the way the system is designed, you have to have a multitude of voters pushing a multitude of representatives.
But can we start with one thing and get a win?
No, I'm not saying that. You're missing my point.
Okay, go ahead.
Because your point. That's why I said what I said at the beginning. You're doing incredible work because that's how it starts. You got to start with one. You can't eat a whole elephant at one bite. It's one bite at a time. So you're right. All right, but what we got to do, as the way the system is built, we got to get other representatives, other people that voted to push that this is what we want. Absolutely. Because what's happening, and I want to go back to now that I got the mic, to something that you said about helping People Academy and helping MAMLEO. The help is in the wrong direction. That's what I said to myself when you said it. If you want help to keep people in the city of color, we're not going to help you. But you want to help to get people out of the city?
Right, we'll give them a ride out.
We'll give you a ride out.
But I mean, I even like your elephant analogy because I think it's perfect. You say, one bite at a time. But you never see one lion trying to take down an elephant, right? You don't. It's always in a pack because they know their strength in numbers, right? That's what we don't have. Pastor Hobbs is trying to take that big bite out of that elephant when he should have a pack of him trying to take it down. That's where I guess for me that's where the frustration comes in. Like T. Michael's good.
I will just say that you got to understand the study history, not to repeat it, but to learn from it. The status.
We're not learning though.
Yeah, again,
we're repeating.
If we try to organize, they always just squash our organization. They always infiltrate our organizations, and again, kind of.
But we didn't let that discourage us in the past. We continued on, right?
I'm just saying,
and there was more harm. I'm gonna let you finish, but there was more harm that could be inflicted on us back then. For still going to and taking over a lunch counter, for not sitting in the back of the bus. And yet, not only are we not sitting in front of the bus, we are the disruptors on the bus.
Yeah, but you had unity, though. See, that's the hit, though. He had unity. This way I'm going back with Pastor Hobbs, because that, what he's doing, I don't want to minimize that work, because that is important work that you're doing, brother. All right? But the thing is that we have to get a blanket of unity that's going to push forward to say, this is what we want, and it starts with the voting poll. Because if I'm a politician, and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at, and my degree is in, and by the way, my doctorate is in public policy. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the stats. And I'm saying, okay, in Dorchester, I got 4 votes. I got 34 people.
That's what I'm talking about.
In West Roxbury, they have 460 people. In Mattapan, I got 5 people. Well, wait a second.
Why do you think that the O'Brien is moving to West Roxbury?
That's my point.
And most people don't realize is that it's no longer an exam school. It's based on your zip code.
Exactly.
How you get in.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Because what's happening is that constituency is pushing, saying we need to have an alternative to Latin,
and there's no price to pay for moving out.
Exactly. Get it out. Get out here, so we can we have easy access to our school. So I'm telling you, politics is meaningful in the way that the system is designed. But you have to start somewhere, and what you're doing, I don't want to make sure I'll make sure I put that out there. What you're doing is the right thing, because a lot of people are uneducated in this area and they don't know that they have a right to vote. And it starts somewhere.
Rhodes?
No, I just wanted to also mention the fact that, again, people don't understand the resource that they have with the Boston public school system. It's $1.4 billion
with a B,
being
not
used.
a million. B.
But also understand this: most students that go into that school system do not know that if they maintain a B average from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, that they can go to community college in the state for free. All right, and if you maintain that B average in community college, you can now attend the rest of those 4-year college on a scholarship as well for free. And then they don't advertise that to the kids as an incentive. Like, if you thought you were going to school and you're like, I can't go to college, but if I maintain a B average, I can go to college for free. Like, again, it's not advertised. Only the administrators, the school teachers, people that are in the system, that are in the know, they get their kids through the system.
So I'm laughing because it goes, in my mind, the way I'm thinking, everything go back to the concept of full citizenship. You think white people don't know that? Man, they know that well. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it's their fault. I'm saying the system makes sure that they know it. They only give the information, disperse the information to certain people. You know what I mean? So, and I just heard just through reading that if you go through if you graduate from a public school in Massachusetts, you can go to college, community college, free of charge. Free of charge.
And exactly. I went to the school system and I never knew that.
No, I'm just finding out right now myself. Pastor Hobbs, you had some comments you want to?
Yes. Carol Sanders says conservatives need to be told at every turn that Nazis were conservatives, supported by conservative money. Also says that
Nazis. Right?
Nazis.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
You said Nazis.
Oh, Nazis. That's how they wrote it. But
it's not. It's
not talking about the rapper.
Nas philosophy.
Carol Sanders also said, burned every liberal book, shot, gassed the liberals.
Right. And that I was saying, when they came for this one, no one said anything. When they came when they came for me, there was no one left.
Which raised another thought in my mind. I just said to myself, I don't understand, and I'm asking for help with this, and maybe someone can call in and help me with this. I don't understand how black folks can be conservative in America. I don't get it.
I think. See, I am very conservative. So I think that the Republicans don't have a monopoly on conservative, because I'm very conservative in a lot of ways, and that doesn't mean a bad thing. Like, I'm conservative in my values, right? I'm conservative in spending, right?
Okay.
So it's not all that but I know what you're saying, and you're saying conservative in believing in that ideology, right?
Yeah.
That people don't have rights. And
I'm talking about conservative in the political approach how America's history, how America has treated black people.
But this is why I say they don't have monopoly. This is why I say I register as an independent, and my value and my views are in a lot of ways conservative, but not attached to a Republican or a Democratic process.
Like, look at the clergy. You would think most of their views are conservative. Okay, but yet they would sign up with the Democrats and the liberal side. But
Okay,
again,
okay. Well, maybe I asked the question wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe I asked the question wrong. Let me just rephrase it. How can a black person, knowing the history of America,
Be a Republican.
a conservative Republican?
A Republican,
Well,
right? Exactly.
you got Uncle Clarence Thomas.
Well, because this is my hit. Because I do agree with
Money.
you. I am conservative in some ways, the way I spend my money. I'm conservative in a lot of ways. I got that, but so I asked the question wrong. But as relates to my politics, as a Republican,
That's the difference.
You know,
That's-
because in my mind, I'm thinking, all right. The root word to conservative is conserve.
Right.
Exactly what am I conserving when it comes down to politics in America?
But this is
as
why
a black person,
I say,
I don't get
as
it.
a black person, you should not be on any side of the aisle completely, right?
Okay.
It should be independent. Now you assess, not one of them may not be, what is in your best interest? And today, to your point, I don't think there's anything that a Republican could say to me that would get me to vote for any of them, right? And it's like the lesser of two evils almost in some instances, right? Because the other side isn't doing much better for me, but they will do, who's going to do the least harm right now? And that's where, unfortunately, we are. But that goes to what we're saying, is that by not getting people in there who will work on our behalf, this is what we're stuck with.
Well, historically, understand that Lincoln was a Republican, and then before
Different party, Doc.
I understand, but before the 1960s, we generally voted Republican. It
I
wasn't
agree.
until
I agree.
Kennedy took Martin Luther King out of jail, and then everyone said, "Okay, we're going to go vote Democrat."
I think it went back to the Lee Atwater Southern Compromise issue when Lee Atwater was saying you have to speak in abstract about how you're going to destroy the black person.
Yeah.
All right. So, but I was just curious
No,
because
no,
I'm having problems with it.
It's a valid point, and I think sometimes that's why I wanted to throw that out there, because I think sometimes when people think conservative, they think, oh, if you're a conservative, you're a Republican, and it couldn't be any further from the truth. That I don't align with their politics.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm watching television and I'm seeing black folks have been Republican strategists, and I'm like, how can you do that as
Because
a
they
black?
get
and know
paid.
the
It's a
history?
job. See, there is also, when there's so few of, some people try to take advantage of that, right, and get paid for doing it. So, T. Michael, and before we grab this comment from Pastor Hobbs, again, how can we help more than we are? Because like I said, it does get frustrating. I know you have to be frustrating, because I'm seeing it. I sat as the president of MAMLEO for 10 years. Dr. Bradley has sat in there. I started trying to get a new building erected there. We were, and yet every administration runs into the same roadblocks that you do, and trying to do something positive. As Dr. Bradley said, if we wanted to erect something there that was some
Like a liquor store, it'd be up there
or
already.
even some $1 million condominiums that's
Or
going
a
to change the
strip club.
landscape of even $1 million condominiums, right? Because we know who is going to be affordable to get
not gonna
those,
be
right?
us.
Exactly. That is going to change the dynamics, because all this construction we're seeing, I see the people walking out of those buildings don't look like us, and these are on Humboldt Ave and on these side streets.
Yes.
Yes. $900,000 for a condominium on Crawford Street. It's not us buying
It's not us, and that's why I say that the help is in the wrong direction. You want to help people to stay; they want you to help people get out.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So if you're erecting a building that's going to cost, in excess of 1.5, 1.2 mil, then we can help you get that up. We can we can facilitate the licensing process. Make sure you get all that stuff really easily. Make sure that you get all the contracts that you need to get through us really easily, and get that building up and running, because we want to get rid of certain people.
Yeah.
But you are talking about actually keeping people in Boston and working with these people to sustain.
And a
life in
perfect
Boston.
analogy of that is the Franklin Institute is already under construction down there at Harrison Ave in near Albany Street. They have not planning this longer than T. Michael Thomas, and he hasn't even been able to break ground. I know they have access to cash, but I'm saying is that those roadblocks are not put in their way.
Not put in their way.
It will be up, and we'll probably still be trying to help this brother get going.
And it appears to be facially neutral. In other words, that if you're white or black, you're still going to have these roadblocks. That's not the case. We know that's not the case. That's the game that's played.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So it goes right back to gentrification.
Exactly. T. Michael, sorry. What's the
Yes,
update?
final thoughts. We just have to get individuals to realize that with the trades, you're looking at wages from $40 to $125+ an hour. And
That's the problem, Doc.
our elected officials, at the end of the day, they need to stand up to the mayor and the governor professionally, respectively, of course, to let them know here is a benefit that could address the street violence, the robbery, etc. But I will say this. This is a great show, and I will always be listening. Thank you for giving me the time.
Absolutely, always. You always have a voice.
What T. Michael is saying, and I do agree with it, is that, because if you live in any major city in the country, you have to make a pretty good penny to actually reside there. You know what I mean? You have to make a pretty good income. So what he's saying is that I have a trade that need people.
Yeah.
And by the way, many people that look like us are not in this trade.
Yeah.
I can train folks. Let's get up. Give me the help so I can train them. And now, when these people now are becoming taxpaying citizens, making big money, the problem with that is that those people now be able to actually produce and take care of their kids, who are now going to come up to challenge my kids.
Right.
All right, for jobs that we think are just for us. You're talking about white supremacy. You're talking about attacking white supremacy. That's the issue. That's why I'll go right back to my issue. It's always been a fight in America for black folks, full citizenship, and white folks maintaining supremacy.
Yeah.
That's the fight.
Absolutely.
Yes.
No, it's good.
And until we recognize it again, it's on all four fronts. Because again, like he says, if you're going to take down the elephant, you need all the lions to be at there. And the fact that we're not organized enough to actually see that is the elephant in the room,
right?
Not the Republican Party, but white supremacy.
Right. Okay. Which one of them's party is the elephant? Is it the Democrats?
The Republicans.
Republicans. Yeah. Okay, so we got
the Democrats are the
and then
donkeys.
Sometimes
Exactly. We act like an
I
ass.
think some of the that's Lobs. You had a comment. You had
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on camera. I'm gonna get called like you. Shut up. I'm sorry.
So Carol Saunders says, "Wow, that's awesome at Boston. Keep a B average through 12th grade. Go to next 2 years free. Get through those 2 with B average. Get scholarship for next 2."
Yeah.
So that information was
so you could even go to Harvard, MIT. Those schools participate in those programs. After you have the 2 years at the community college, whether Bunker Hill.
You know why they offer it? Because they don't have to pay out too much, if at all.
Exactly.
Because most people, even if they do, don't even know it exists. And
but I'm in academia, and I can tell you that what he's saying is absolutely true. And in fact, I teach at one of the places I teach is Massasoit, and that participates in it, and it's state owned, by the way. And I teach criminal justice and law there, and we have seen over the years a decrease in the amount of students. Some of the courses we are having difficulties populating, but over the last since September, this month is the new program that basically says now that if you have graduated from a Boston school or any school in the state of Massachusetts with a decent average, you have no college degrees. All right, you can go.
That's a new program. Yes.
You can go to the state school. Free of charge.
Again, 25 years or older. For that one.
Quickly, so we can grab this call.
No, I just wanted to again reiterate. Again, like to reiterate the fact that again we don't know the resources that we have, and then again if we're not organized.
Come on, we want to hear the Barry, not the mush mouth.
Oh, sorry. We want to make sure that we understand all the resources that we have that are available and that we are organized. Because again, like he says, trades, it's bringing dollars. It's a steady job. It's to be able to support your family. And then how come they're not trying to like it's a long term solution to a problem, to an existing problem. It's not short term, but it is funny as you said that they have the resources to bring in all the other things that can affect the community without any issue, but the particular fact that education, and as Malcolm X said, you cannot trust the slave masters to not educate your children, and then we have to take that and ownership of that, and unfortunately the status quo or the powers that be.
That's why we have all these historically black colleges, because we get comments and we'll grab this.
Sure. So the Patrick Wilson says the Soul Patrol is coming to Activate Radio, MAMLEO, the round table, Sunday mornings on activatemedia.org.
Yeah, it gets rebroadcast.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's been happening, and so Patrick Wilson is actually on the line.
Okay.
And
I didn't know that.
Hello.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for that, and good morning. Welcome to At the Round Table. So they'll hear you as well in the rebroadcast.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, and I'm really excited to have the show on Sunday morning. You know, on a personal note, I mean, my family is mixed, and most of my relatives are people of color.
Everyone is welcome.
Actually, well, exactly.
Right.
But a lot of them are police officers as well. So me being an activist and going back to Occupy Boston, it's always been interesting to me that, well, the first speech that was given at Occupy Boston, that first night, it included this line in it that, you know, we're going to respect the Boston Police Department, and, you know, they're welcome here too. The thought has always been that police officers are part of the 99% as well, because you're labor, and I think that that's something that a lot of people miss when they look at policing.
And to that point, not to cut you off, is that I think people don't realize that organizations such as MAMLEO has been fighting that from the inside out, right? The disparate treatment that it's not, we are not immune from it because we become police officers. So I think some people come in thinking, okay, now all is forgiven. I'm on the team. And we find out we're not all on the same team, even though we're all in the same profession. And we've had most recently a $40 million judgment for a disparate discrimination when it comes to promotions and drug testing, and there is a long list of internal issues that we've had to deal with. So I thank you for flagging that, because there is this misconception that all of us, once we get in, we're drinking the Kool-Aid.
Right. Hey, listen, I have a question for you, actually, that I haven't heard you guys discuss yet, but recently there was a database that was released that has to do with internal affairs and the investigation of complaints against police officers in Massachusetts. What are you guys' thoughts on this? Because from what I've seen from it so far, I think it's a good thing that they're releasing some information,
right? So,
but it doesn't seem very complete.
So, okay, so let me just say, for full disclosure, and again, you're flagging all the right questions. I serve as one of the inaugural commissioners. That's from the Post Commissioners, Police Oversight Standard and Training. That's the statewide agency that is tasked with police certifications throughout the Commonwealth. And we're being transparent as possible. But you have to understand, we're gathering information from all over the state, from every department that was operating independently, and trying to streamline that into getting it out there so that the public can see it and is being as transparent, and going through folders and files of documents. And one of the problems that I've had is that not every department describes a manner in the same way, and I know that, and that's intentional. And one of the things that I flagged, for instance, is that if you're Boston, I'll give you a quick example. They have an untruthfulness policy, but a lot of times, if you're not connected or if you're a person of color, that is a fireable offense if you're found guilty of that. The same offense and infraction will say that Dr. Bradley was untruthful, and so he's going to be terminated. And then someone that doesn't look like him, he inaccurately reported his thing, so it was a mistake, and he will get to keep his job. That's where we're having this, trying to figure out how we look at those, because we know it's the same infraction, but the prospective department treated it differently on the outset, and now we have to go in there and go back in the Wayback Machine.
I think you're absolutely right. I think there's two battles here. I think there's an internal battle as it relates to how police departments actually report their the disciplinary behavior, and there's an external battle as it relates to how people perceive policing in the Commonwealth. There's a shift throughout the country that citizens are asking for a better police practitioner. They're asking for a better police force. They're asking police to move from vocational to professional. And in order to move from vocational to professional, you must have two things. One, an educated police practitioner. Two, an overarching organization that promulgates, rules and procedures and all those things, and tactics and evidence-based tactics. So I'm sorry.
Hold that thought.
Okay.
Hey, Patrick, can you code on through the break?
Sure.
Okay, because we got to take our break. I want Dr. Bradley to hold where he was so he can continue his thought after the break. We're going to take our break. You've been listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. We're going to take our break, and we'll be right back.
And what's it?
Perfect. As long as you work hard. Hustle real hard. Hustle. So if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya, No, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog. I wrote 300 songs in 1 year, Boogie will tell you I'm on it. I got unreleased songs for days, they don't want it. Eat any MC in the game, it ain't a challenge. If your music reflects who you are, then you's a coward. I can see through the lies you ain't living what you spitting. If your money's so long, why your dog's in prison? Why your baby mom's stripping, why your mom's still living in that same broken home that you used to sell piffin'. You ain't gotta lie to me to sell me a track. You ain't gotta rock fake jewels or walk around strapped. I respect artists getting money, but love them for spitting crack. And the fact that one track can move a family out the trap. It's a dream for us lost souls brought up in the mix. I'm motivated by the artists coming out in my midst, and the artists that paved the way when I didn't exist. Music's a skyscraper, I'm just trying to add a couple bricks. This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer, cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard. Hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle. So if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya, no, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.